We're going to have a panel here for you today. I have the wonderful role of trying to moderate that. I see some of you are fighting the light that is coming from behind. You're in the spotlight. If you have any sun coming straight on your face, it means that you've been selected to ask questions during the discussion. So that is your cue, right? My name is Allegro. I'm ambassador of the Independent Hotel Show Europe, and I'm also chairman of QL Hotels. And it's my distinct pleasure to have today with me 3 guests. We were supposed to have 4. Unfortunately, Josje Vandongen was unable to come at the very last moment, and she apologizes for that. But we're very happy to be with this distinguished company today. I start in the middle with Ilse Kous, who's with Mews, and they have their stand right across. So she's got a lot of support from her peers in that sense. For the viewers on your left-hand side, we have Valentin Dumonnet, who had to walk quite a distance from the Okura hotel, which is also around the corner. And last but not least, replacing his colleague Florian Augustin, there's Robert Holland, who's with HotelPartner Yield Management in the UK, who flew in from Birmingham this morning. So where you had a short walk, you had quite a long flight. We're really happy that you're here. So the topic today is going to be on high tech and high touch. And in addition to those who've been selected by the sunlight, if you have any questions during the presentation or during the discussion, please give me a sign. Raising a hand is very useful, but if you want to throw paper or anything, please feel free to do so, if it's directed to me, that is. And I will come to you and hand you the microphone, and we can exchange whatever COVID we have left on our bodies. I was not supposed to mention the C word, so that's my first mistake, I'm afraid. So what I would like to do at the start is to invite the panelists, and Valentin, if you would be so kind to go first, is to share with us a bit on your background, but also what do you think in the realm of high tech, high touch, and the balance we find is the most important issue for hotels. So if I can leave you with that, I'd much appreciate that.
Valentin Dumonnet, test, sound.
Can we hear it?
No sound. I don't have anything. Hello, hello. Number 1. Talk to me. That starts well. Yeah. I'm online. Thank you.
That was high tech, right?
Yeah, it was
and
high
through
tech.
high touch, it was solved. That's.
Valentin Dumonnet, IT director for the Hotel Okura in Amsterdam here. So we have 300 rooms, 5 restaurants, multiple with Michelin stars. And basically, to go to your point, high tech and high touch, for me, it's not on purpose, but the transition goes directly with the panel which was just before us, where they ended up talking about the middle. So you've got the data you use prior to the guest journey, the data you use after the guest journey. What I'm focusing on at the moment is it's nice to have all that data, but how do you use it to make the guest stay experience, whatever you want to call it, better? Where can you add there? I'm going to use a very quick example. If you buy perfume in one of those Ici Paris XL style shop, you walk in, you catch a lady, you want to buy new perfume. You're going to have a 20-minute talk with her about that. At the end, you go to the cashier and she goes like, oh, do you have a client card? Yes, I do. And from the beginning, you could have known what I used in the past, how much I spend. All the data you've got about me, you've gathered about the years, you're not using it to make my experience better. I have to repeat everything every time I'm coming. And that, for me, is where I'm focusing now. How can a guest have a better check-in, a better restaurant experience, thanks to the data I've got about them?
Great example. And so you immediately also translate high tech into data.
Exactly.
Okay, good. Ilse, for you, the same question. Can you introduce yourself and enlighten us on your view on how high tech and high touch is important for hotels?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. My name is Ilse. I work for a company called Mews. We have our stand just right behind you. We are a software provider, hotel software provider, mainly sell PMS to hotels, independent hotels or chains. For me, I think it's kind of what Valentin says. It's very difficult. There's so many things out there today where, as a hotelier, be it a chain hotel, independent hotel, where do you choose to find your info? How do you decide yourself where to get your info from? And I think more importantly, how do you want to use high tech in order to become high touch. What works for a small independent hotel, maybe a family hotel, is certainly not going to work for a lifestyle hotel. So in the midst of it all, how do you define what actually works for you, and how can you use the tech to make the experience of your guests better?
Okay, that's clear. Thank you very much. Robert, all the way from Birmingham, for us that's a long distance, especially since we haven't been flying that much for a long time. What's it like to be traveling again?
But my name is Holland.
Yeah.
So I'm back in
That's how you
the
got.
country of
That's
mine.
how you got into the border, right?
Absolutely. They flew me through all of the paperwork that I had to print out.
Great.
To come through was unnecessary.
I think maybe you have to push your microphone up a little bit so they can hear you slightly.
Is that any better?
It's
Yes.
much better.
But no, thank you. Other than the name of Holland, with an Italian mother and an English father, that's about the extent of my kind of Dutch background, as it were. But really delighted to be here, standing in for my colleague Florian, here representing HotelPartner. We've got the stand just behind here. Come and see us later on. We are a pan-European company. We have about 500 clients across Europe, and I look after the UK market. Talking about my experiences of high tech versus high touch. Prior to joining HotelPartner in 2017, I looked after 2 hotels in central London, and I was an avid technologist. I looked at technology to enable my staff to perform better, to perform more efficiently, and I guess unlike Valentin's approach from a data perspective, I'm looking at technology, in particular back of house, to support, in particular at the moment, the challenges that we have with recruitment, and how is it that we can put our resources in front of our customers and looking after our customers first and foremost, and allow technology to support us back of house. So thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for those introductions, and thank you for sharing with us how you look towards the topic. Well, you're all somehow either from a tech background, but at least you ended up in tech. And here we are presenting at the Independent Hotel Show with many hoteliers in the room. Now, how high tech is our industry anyway? Because I've got the feeling that tech is not the favorite part of us hoteliers. We use it because we have to, but it's not where our heart is. What is your take on that? Where do you feel that tech is in our industry at this moment?
For me, I think actually it's like the hospitality industry is an industry that focuses on people. It's an experience industry. It's probably not high touch enough. It's probably not high tech enough. If I think about it, I think we probably have the opportunity to make it much, much bigger, actually. We have all this data in-house, kind of what you said. Why don't we use this data to make the guest experience way more personal, right? You know what newspaper somebody reads, you know what family they bring to your hotel, you know how many times they've stayed before. I think we can use that data way more than what we do today. Actually creating a fantastic guest experience using that data. So to answer your question, Sandra, I don't think it's high tech enough, right? I think it has the possibility to become way more tech and way more high touch.
And can I add to that? And again, you know, coming from an operational background, for me, it's about reducing the friction point. It's about using technology to allow a more seamless check-in, to allow our customers to communicate with our back-of-house teams in a seamless way without the requirement for interaction with our staff, other than to perform that customer service role, and spending our time talking to our customers, finding out why they're here, finding out what they're doing, how their day's been, rather than asking them to sign a registration card and having your head down and looking at a screen the whole time.
And Valentin, you gave the example of a perfume store where they will talk to you for endless, at least 20 minutes for me is an endless time, and then only inquire about your frequent visitor or frequent buyer card at the very end. Now, how do you try and help avoid that same situation occurring in your hotel?
Yeah, exactly. To quickly come back on what you said, I think we are more high-tech than we think. I mean, hotel business has PMS systems since a very long time and has automated a lot of tasks since a very long time. We have F&B systems since a very long time. Just we have silos all over the place and data all over the place, and we don't do anything with it. So that's one subtlety about being high-tech. I think we are high-tech. Just are we high-tech, using enough of the high-tech we have available? And then in my particular case, what's important is to make the guest experience better. So for example, one tool I'm using is that you will do your registration online before you arrive in the hotel. The goal for me is to reduce the administration time and to enhance the connection time, so that my receptionist doesn't have to chase you on your passport number, your address, God knows what. No, it's done before, it's in front of you, you just have to sign it. No, I can ask you, why are you here? Do you have a restaurant for tonight? Do you need an advice? Do you need help to find a Rembrandt museum? How can I make your experience better? Because by making your experience better, I'm making sure that eventually you will come back, which is highly appreciated, but that you will talk around you about how your experience was. I think the TripAdvisor of this world are getting a bit, to a certain point, to their limit, where you see some fantastic places which are not at the top of TripAdvisor and some lousy places which are pretty high. So I still want to believe that people just over a dinner with friends saying how fantastic the check-in was, how great the room was, how great the dinner experience was, that will create a near-to-mouth factor, which is actually priceless marketing.
But I think if you look at what hotels do today, we are super used to going to an airport, right, and checking in with your phone, swiping your QR code, and off you go. But how many hotels actually do that, right? So I think the idea is there. Right? Thankfully, the Okura does it. Mews obviously has online check-in. We had it way before, 4 or 5 years ago. Nobody used it. Now, post-COVID, people are starting to adapt to it more, and it actually creates a much better experience. People come into the hotel, you don't have to fill out your name, you don't have to give your credit card data, you don't have to give your date of birth. You've already done that before. So I'm super glad to see actually that people, maybe because of COVID, that people are now actually adapting it and that are using it for a much better experience.
But I don't want to get away from the touch points with our clients. I mean, we have to be really careful that we don't go to a no-touch. And I sit on the fence between high touch and high tech, and recognize that hospitality, and both my parents were hoteliers. I grew up with hospitality running through my veins. I want the welcome to be there, but the welcome has to be a proper welcome and a proper experience, rather than often, as is often the case, certainly in my experience in the UK, these dour receptionists that actually don't want to be there. They would much rather messaging their friends on Facebook or WhatsApp, and they don't want to be working in hotels. And we've got to take them away from. I refurbished one of the hotels that I was running back in 2014. I took away the reception desk. I made the staff come out front. I didn't get rid of my reception team, but I got rid of the barriers between them and my customers.
Well, I think that's exactly where the touch point is, right? You're actually using tech in your advantage. So what does a hotelier do? He caters to his guests, right? So we remove the tech element or the admin element by using tech, and that allows us to engage with guests way more than what we did before.
Yeah, because that's where tech is, right? It's an enabler. It's a facilitator of the process of creating a customer experience. Valentin?
Yes, but you also have to manage expectations. I think your online check-in is a very good example, and that's something that I'm not a big fan of with my current market segmentation. I'm currently looking into national market and people which are mainly leisure, and they don't want online check-in. That's not what they are looking for. However, when I will have my businessman back in, then that's something that I might be interested in. Or if I look back at my 20 years at Intercontinental, airport hotels. I mean, seriously, guests in airport hotels, if they can avoid a receptionist, they will. And then you're completely right. It's important to have the option that you just walk to your room, phone, open the door, leave me alone, and on the way out, same way.
And that's, I think, also one of the challenges. You have to determine yourself, what sort of hotel am I, right? If you're an airport hotel or a hotel that doesn't have a night receptionist, for example, right? Then it makes absolute sense for you to have an online check-in, a key to be sent to your phone. You enter, you never see anybody, and you walk on. If you're a boutique hotel and you focus really on leisure or just providing that super personalized experience, you can still use tech, just in a very, very different way.
But let's build on that a bit, because this is the Independent Hotel Show. Everybody's welcome. We have a lot of hoteliers here who are more of the corporate side, but our main focus is on those independent hotels. Some of them are those luxury boutique hotels. How can they start working or better work with technology without losing their identity, where that contact is a very large and important portion of the process?
We have one of the Dylan Hotel here in Amsterdam. It's a 5-star boutique luxury hotel. They've implemented Mews from start to finish. So the moment that you enter their hotel, actually, as you said, Robert, there's no more reception desk. They completely got rid of all of their desks, all of the barriers in between themselves and the guests. They sit you down, they walk through your reservation, but they actually create a very personal experience because they have all the data at hand, right? The system tells them how many times they've stayed before. The system tells them why they're here. So they don't have to focus on all of the admin stuff. And the whole experience, if you walk into their lobby, it feels very, very high tech. And they use it by using high tech. So one does not necessarily defeat the other. I think they actually complement each other.
Robert, I saw you nodding in agreement. How do you look upon that?
No, I've got to agree with Ilse that it's not about taking the touch points away. It's about ensuring that they are enabled through technology to provide the best possible experience for the customers, and they're not, spending time doing unnecessary tasks.
Well, I think that's an important key, right? Not to do any unnecessary task, which is bothering not only the customer, but also this very tight labor market where we have limited number of staff, and we want to motivate them, keep them engaged, and making them, facilitating them and having a nice workplace. Because how does that come into this equation? Because are we able to keep on providing high touch in a market which is so tight and where we don't have people? Is it also a reason to go more into high tech because of the shortage that we experience?
If I can give maybe a personal example, when I worked at hotels, the worst thing to do was night audit, right? There's nothing fun about night audit.
I second that.
It's not fun working at night, one, right? The admin stuff that you need to do, close the day, print out all of the sheets, take the system offline, right? Be stuck without a system for a few hours. None of that is fun. Now, I'm not sure if you can ever take away the night receptionist because you still possibly need to have somebody there for safety reasons. But just removing all of the manual work and not having a physical night audit is nothing more than changing one day to the next. That would actually make your life a little bit more fun, right? Being there at night is always going to be tough, but not having to do the admin at least makes it a bit more exciting.
And I'd like to pick up on something that Valentin was saying earlier, and Ilse's touching on now as well. I mean, I ran 2 restaurants in London prior to coming back into hospitality or into hotels. And the amount of time that we spent processing people at the end of a meal, having people pay. This was before you could tap. This was back in the noughties in 2005, 2006. Often we can lose a customer's support. We can turn an event that was positive into a negative event by having somebody queue up at reception desk to check out and spending 20 minutes when they could have actually just paid their bill online. And now, going back to one of your points about the C word and what's happened during the pandemic, so many more pubs and restaurants in London in particular have now adopted technology to process that interaction with the customers so that they can actually focus on the customer.
Using QR codes to order.
QR codes to order, you're looking at menus, you're ordering, and you're paying for it there and then. And so you're not bogged down with the process of that often accompanies technology. But technology is, again, enabling them to do their jobs far more efficiently.
And in what you do, you bring it outside of the area that we've been talking about most, which is front office, rooms division. What other areas are important for hoteliers to looking at the equation of high tech and high touch? Where do you see opportunity for us? You oversee an entire hotel, so you probably have some ideas
what
about
I wanted to add on the previous subject is we have to be careful as well of tired technology, I call it. So the good old welcome screen on the television with your last name on it. I mean,
misspelled,
seriously,
right?
Can happen. Just burn it. I mean, this doesn't bring anything. It's an automatic process. The guest doesn't feel special because you've got that. When you've got a guest returning and you're able to have something personal to say, like, oh, I know you love red wine. Why don't you look at this promotion or this special wine we just got in? Or I know you've got a fish allergy, so therefore have a look there. I've got this ribeye, which is absolutely marvelous. Those small touches where you can really use the technology to enhance the interaction.
I think I was watching a presentation from SiteMinder yesterday, and one of the facts that they mentioned in that was that 4 out of 5 people don't mind if their data is shared if it's going to better their experience. And I think using, we're not all going to walk around with QR codes on our foreheads, but we should, because it might actually tell us, or tell the person that's working with us or serving us more about us. But I love the idea that we can enhance hospitality through the use of data.
You can, that's for sure. And it's all about identifying the guest, and accepting that you're never going to catch 100%. You can only do it with people that have a booking with you. Because somebody who comes sit in the lobby, you ask for 2 coffee, if you ask them for their email address, I'm sorry, but you're more going to frustrate somebody than give them a fantastic experience. Just accept you will not capture all the transactions, that's for sure. Another one that I see as well is the trend with phone applications, and the trend that a lot of hoteliers want to have phone applications. For me, you have to ask yourself, what is the reason for a guest to install such an application? What's in there for them? Why would they want to use it? If it's only for you to gather data, well, it's not going to be used, and it's going to have a negative impact. So be thoughtful about why you do it and how it could be perceived.
Okay, we're now forming the discussion now a bit towards the F&B side of things. What other areas in the hotels are there, and especially focusing on those independent hotels, that you can really gain something by applying a better balance between high tech and high touch? Is it behind the scenes? Is it in maintenance? Where do you see opportunity?
I'm not sure if it's maybe back of house under or possibly front of house, right? I think with COVID, we've also seen that most hotels sell hotel rooms. It's very expensive space to have a lobby and not have anything actually done in that lobby. And while a lot of people are working from home, at a certain point, lots of people actually wanted to venture out of their house and work somewhere else. So maybe also from a revenue point of view and just looking at optimizing your space using high tech is how do I market, for example, my lobby. Lobby is probably the most expensive square meters in a hotel, right? It's an empty area where you have a couple of couches and people just have a coffee or wait around. Why don't you turn that into a co-working space or look at other places within your hotel that you can actually optimize for revenue making, but also for experience making. Right, I'm bored being at home, right? It's wonderful for me to go out, have a coffee, maybe network somewhere else in a fairly safe environment outside of my own house. So I think it works actually both ways, from a guest experience as well as from a revenue-making experience.
I think that's an interesting advice. I think quite a few have adopted that, but I still see many hotels that have that open lobby and don't make it a commercial space.
So I worked with another company, I do some consultancy work as well, with a company called Anco last year, and we've got about 400 venues in London that are using this as a remote working platform, and you can actually book the space within a hotel lobby. You go in there, you're using a closed Wi-Fi network, so you can actually access your company's extranets as well, and it's a great concept, and I'm sure it will be here in Amsterdam soon as well.
So from a Mews perspective, we obviously sell PMS, right, property management system, that usually manages hotel rooms. But we're expanding the system so that you can also manage your conference rooms, your parking space, anything that has inventory and a time around it. From a hotelier's point of view, it makes it much easier to manage. From a guest point of view, if you can book all of your services in one flow, then that's obviously also a better experience.
It probably has a better turnover anyway, because people are in the process.
Exactly.
I would like to see if we can bring the discussion to another point, and that is, so far we've been talking about the processes that are going on today. But I'd also like to have and try to have a look at the future, because I think many people are here to get inspired, to get new ideas. If you try to follow what's going on, AI, artificial intelligence, is going to hit the hotel sector later than all the other sectors, because we're always a bit behind, right? That's why I always wanted to be a trend watcher in the hotel world. You can just rely on what's happening anywhere else, and then you can say it 2 years later in our industry. But looking at AI, looking at metaverse, what is it that we should share here from your experience, from your extensive knowledge of these areas? that our hoteliers should prepare for and should be in the know about. Valentin, do you have any
In the
ideas
term
on
of
that?
AI, I think it's a lot of machine learning we are working with at the moment. I think the word AI is a bit used and abused, so we have to be careful with that. I do believe that should we manage to use customer data platform to centralize our data, AI will be very interesting to figure out what's in there and help us use that data. But the first step is obviously to centralize your data. In terms of metaverse, I'm very careful saying what I'm going to say because I feel a bit like the CEO of Ericsson saying that the iPhone would never work or that internet is something that will never catch up and die within a
Nobody
couple
will
of
need a
years.
computer, right?
Exactly. But I don't really see the metaverse future at the moment. I find it very difficult to grasp in the sense that we are very much about having a real life experience and offering that. The metaverse is about going into a virtual world where you're having a parallel life. So I'm at the moment I'm not seeing it. Let me put it this way. I want to be very careful.
Well, we will remember you in 5 years' time, right?
Exactly.
It's the Ericsson guy from Okura, right? It's,
I wonder if you're maybe if you're a lifestyle brand, right, or if you're a big name brand out there, maybe the metaverse works for you from a brand recognition point of view. For an independent hotel, I struggle to see what the benefit is too, very much.
I think if you ask my 10-year-old son, who has more experience of Minecraft than I have, he would tell you all about the metaverse and AR and such. But I would probably still prefer to lie on a beach than to see a beach in
Maybe we
my
could do the
goggles.
independent hotel show in the metaverse, right?
Absolutely.
we could meet. Yeah.
It's a possibility. We have to go?
well, it sounds like it's in a different corner. I don't see anybody moving yet. Maybe it's,
I see no flames. We're good. And there's the exit just
Emergency
here.
exit is
we're
just
near
here.
the exit. So
But do
it's,
pick up a brochure from HotelPartner on your way out.
It was a fire in the metaverse, so nothing to worry
Clearly.
about. Right? It's,
But you also asked about AI, Sander. So there's a company here called Please Ask M. They're used by Postilion hotels, and they use AI, for example, for every time that somebody wants to request a conference room with a couple of hotel rooms, etc. They have the AI bot read the email, decide how many, or it actually reads how many, what the request is for that date, and it gives them an auto reply. So that I think is wonderful because it, from a
but
guest.
does it work? Because just a quick check. I think we've all been online trying to work with a bot, right? Trying to
Yes.
ask a question.
Yeah.
How many of you was frustrated within the first round of questions? So how does that system work? Is it operational? Does it
You should ask them. They have a
Okay.
stand right there.
because I'm sure they will cover it. It's like we had with Skype when it first started, that you lost your connection all the time, and now it's an outdated system and we use other things. But is that bot really going to help us, or is it only going to frustrate people?
I think it's a good question. I was actually speaking to Mark just before, and he said to me, it works very well if people write their emails in a certain standard.
Yes.
But obviously, if you...
So please remember that you adjust yourself to the language of the bot, right? That's the important person.
Yeah, so only if used well, it probably helps a lot, right?
Yes.
It helps from a guest point of view. It also means nobody on the backside has to actually read that email and process it. So if used well, I think it can really help, but we're maybe not there yet.
No, I'm making fun of it because I'm quite sure that with the help of AI, these bots will become much smarter, and we will see a point where this is going to be a really useful tool, taking away those chores of retyping an email basically into a banqueting sheet, which is nobody waiting for.
But I think Valentin made a good point that it's machine learning more than it is AI that we're using in our industry at the moment.
And what is the difference? Can you enlighten us?
Artificial intelligence is actually able to learn from a situation and then learn from its mistake, basically. Machine learning is basically being pre-programmed to follow certain steps depending on multiple variables.
Okay.
And that's a big difference. For me, I have not seen AI yet. I don't say it doesn't exist, but what you said about technology earlier, we hotel business, we wait for technology to mature until we step in. And why? Is because we are not such a high profit margin business, and we have to be a bit careful with how we spend our money. and especially more now with the corona wave, which I think hurt anyone in the room. So we wait, we see, and then we take action.
But traditionally, we've also been constrained by the bigger players in our supplier market actually releasing improvements to their systems as and when it suits them, rather than as and when we need it as an industry. And I've been frustrated throughout my career as a hotelier that you can't get from your PMS provider or from your EPOS solution what is readily available for other businesses around different silos.
I'm quite happy that we're actually moving into a space where everything is now cloud-based. There's open APIs. We don't charge for it. If you look back at the legacy systems, 10,000 euros for just an application to write to their application is nothing, right? So that would stop you, because that's a big investment that you have to do. So I'm happy at least to see that from a tech perspective, we're moving in a direction where more people can use the technology available to them.
But there are still so many integrations that we want to have as a company, and we have about 25 PMS integrations, but there are so many companies that still hold their cards close to their chest, and they just don't want to share the information they've got. And we're there to benefit the customer at the end of the day, and it's the consumer that determines which companies they want to use, and hopefully they're going to use us as best in class for what we deliver, and they're going to use a best in class PMS provider.
And I think that comes from us being slow movers as hoteliers, and any of those suppliers not wanting to follow a trend which is going to burn out very quick. They only follow a trend when they are kind of 98% sure that it's going to come out as something.
Let's see if there are any questions in the audience. Don't worry, I've got enough questions prepared, but it would be interesting to hear your take. And earlier I said those who are in the spotlight have to ask questions, but I think you're fried by now, so I'll let you off the hook. Are there any questions you would like to ask our panel? Alexander.
My name is Alexander from Leonardo Hotels. I'm questioning, giving this discussion, what will happening with future loyalty programs? How does it look like?
Future? Sorry, I didn't hear it.
Loyalty programs.
Loyalty programs.
Oh. I've got a vision, but it's completely out of the blue. I warn you.
To add on that, it's also very traditional nowadays. It's enrollments. It's so, given the tech side of it, what will happening?
But loyalty, I think, is nothing more. Do you want to go first, sir?
Mine will be more floaty, so yours will be more real. I believe it's time for loyalty programs to switch to the blockchain, so that when I'm collecting somewhere, I'm not collecting points from somebody specific, but I'm collecting on a cryptocurrency, which I can just gather wherever I'm staying, and I can use wherever I want. The problem is that's not what you want as a hotel chain, because you want people to have to come to you instead of to the neighbors. And that's why I think there's a couple of companies which have tried to launch blockchain solutions for those programs. Whether the chains will realize that they have to conglomerate, like you see with airlines, which go together to get the miles together, so at least you go to my group of airlines instead of to another group or something like that. I don't know. For the moment, I don't see a lot of movement in that direction, but that's what I think is
but how loyal are our customers anyway? I mean, they have every different loyalty card under the sun in their wallet. I mean, people aren't loyal. They're loyal to a team that happen to work at a hotel, or they're loyal to a particular location. But I'm not sure that the loyalty is there to the brand.
And loyalty is nothing more than data collection, right? Or a loyalty program is nothing more than data collection. So if you use that to your advantage, I think you can create proper experiences. People don't necessarily, I think, come back for discounts. I think they come back for experiences because they've experienced that whatever you provide is wonderful based upon the data that they've provided. So I don't think it's dead just yet.
But if you look at that, you could argue that the current systems that are in use vis-a-vis loyalty systems are sort of one size fits all. We have 3-4 tiers, and that's about it. This new approach that we've been talking about all the time, where we collect data on individual guests, where we build guest history and derive new information from that, would allow us to have a far more personalized type of loyalty system, which is not focused on how many points you accumulate, which you can then return for stays, but really taps into your needs. Do you see that more individualized system around the corner? Is it looming, or is it something that's impossible to actually operate.
That's why I'm developing at the moment, but I don't call it a loyalty system. It's a My Okura, so it's a portal where you register, and you can say before you come what you want to, what kind of cushion you want, if you want to pick up from the airport, if you want to book a restaurant, if you'd like to use one of our rental bikes, whatever, just to make your experience better, and that in the preparation of the stay, you already have certain milestones booked. One of the issue we've got, which is a luxury problem, is people do not book the restaurants in advance. And when they come in and they say, can I have a table for tonight? No. Tomorrow? No. And you create a frustration, while it's not your fault, but from a guest point of view, it's a very big disappointment that they cannot do that while they had planned to. So I don't call it loyalty program anymore. I call it, let's say, experience enhancement. And I do collect data at the same time, of course.
But I assume you also base that upon a persona, right? So you understand who's coming, why they're here, with how many people they're coming. Would you also do things like upselling and cross-selling within the booking experience to already capture, for example, the disappointment?
There is upselling possibilities in there, but we are not using them. It's not the first reason. Let me put it this way. It's a side benefit. Okay. For me, it's really enhancing.
We have another
the
question from the audience, so I'd like to give that priority before we get to the end. So I'm going to hand you the microphone if you're okay with that. I washed my hands this morning.
Hi, thank you. I am Sana. I am an educational designer from a hotel management business school, and I'm here together with a few of my students, so the future workforce for the hotelier industry. So what does this balance between high-tech, human touch ask for our future students and the professional that work in the workforce? And I would like to introduce that the most students who come to us and study always say, we want to work with people, and the tech scares them. So what do we say to them?
Thank you, good point. And originally we would have someone from the educational world who's not here. So what do we say to them? And how should it be reflected in education? That's the question, right? Thank you.
So I guest lecture at a couple of universities in London, and I speak to the hospitality students and our workforce of tomorrow. And it's a constant frustration for me working in the UK that I'm one of very few English people working in hospitality. It's not an attractive industry in the UK, and it's a real shame. So I've been very passionate about talking about education for many, many years. But I do think that what technology can bring the future workforce is allowing us to work with fewer people and actually rewarding those people much better, because hospitality has always had a stigma attached to it, that it was a low-paid industry. It doesn't need to be. If we're more efficient in our processes, if we can use and adopt technology solutions that enable us to work more efficiently, we can work with fewer people, and those people that are working with us can actually do what they've been employed to do and look after our customers.
And be in touch with people.
I don't think anybody enjoys doing a night audit, the example that I gave, right? I don't think anybody enjoys typing over guest registration data into a system. Nobody thinks that that's fun, and you wouldn't necessarily want to work for a company that has that as a basis. So hopefully we can actually make it a bit easier. And I support what you said, actually. I do a lot of guest lectures as well. It's one of the things that I talk to people about, whether you want to go into hotels or whether you want to go into tech. Right, there's so much that we can bring. So if you go into hotels, right, you want to go into hotels because you're hospitable. You want to provide experiences. You don't want to type things over. Hopefully, we can actually bring that back into hotels so they can provide experiences.
We're going to make it better. You have another question? That's a very atypical audience, because normally when I stand here, all the questions come from the far end, which is good for my number of steps a day. But here I'm not going to make any steps. I'm going to give you...
We're making it easy for you. First off, come hang out. I'm Jake DeWolf. I work for a technology company, and we're very interested in actually engaging with people. So sorry to steal the thunder as well. I would assume Mews is the same. My question, though, is resoundingly, you have all said that high touch and high tech are the future. We need to do it. We need to be doing it. But I think you've talked about the what. I think now it's a matter for the how, right? So how do we actually start to embed this? How do we get people to move? And of course, this is a self-serving question as a technology provider, but there are 100 people in this room who I think would agree with you. What steps can we actually take to now start to see this action and elicit it? And I think at the end of the day, support each other.
Get rid of your silos, centralize your data, make sure you can use it. Work with I reckon you, that's what you want me to say.
That's a very simple recipe. So get rid of the silos, centralize your data, and
make sure you do something with it.
Oh, that's a good step not to forget. Right?
And open yourselves up to integration with other parties. Don't shut down newcomers. I mean, we want to support technology and new ideas that are coming into our industry, but so often it's not the case because we shut them down. They can't get in. They can't integrate with our key locking system. They can't integrate with our finance systems, and everybody's got these closed doors. And there are some hubs, but they're either very, very expensive or they don't work.
And also from a hotel's point of view, I think you have to listen to your customers, to your guests, right? I mean, we can tell you all about what tech can do for you, but if you're, like I said before, if you're a small boutique hotel, you probably have very different needs for your guests than if you're a hotel that doesn't have any staff, for example, at night. So I think you want to listen as well to what you need as a brand or as an identity. You want to listen to your guests and then look at your tech stack and say what actually works for me, and not just to follow all of the possibilities that are out there.
Good. Well, we're coming towards the end of the session, and that's where I like to ask you, we've heard a lot of advice so far, what your main advice would be to anyone who's looking to find a better balance in their high-tech, high-touch in their hotel. What can they do? What should they not do? What should they do more? What should they get rid of? Anything goes. We've already had some great ideas. I really like the part, don't just collect data, do something with them. That's a step that I've seen many hotels forgetting. They pile up data, but they don't use it. Or sometimes they don't know. But do you have any other advice for hoteliers in this room that they can follow if they want to up themselves in this game?
Well, it might be a bit controversial, come from a technical guy, but at the center is your staff. And your staff is the one which will deliver the experience to your guests and make them want to come back. And then my job as a data guy is to make sure that my staff has the info to enrich this interaction with the guests. Make them feel special, make them feel remembered, make them feel welcome. Basically, make that a very special experience, but my computers will never be able to do that. I need the staff, I need the person with, that ability to engage with people to make them feel that way and want to come back and tell me I'm brilliant and have other people coming.
So for those of you who are from the press, this is a tech guy saying, put your people first, right? It's we'll remember that. It's one more, not just the Ericsson guy. Ilse.
For me, it's kind of similar to what Valentin said, actually, but I would say it's your employees, but it's your guests mainly, right? These are the people that are at the center of your hotel. These are the people that you want to engage. These are the people you want to get into your hotel. So listen to what they have to say and ensure you cater for their needs and that you cater for your needs. What is it that you want to be? Where do I want to go? How do I make sure I radiate that to the audience, to my guests? And how do I make their stay remarkable?
Great, thanks. Robert.
I work for a company that combine tech and touch. We look at outsourced solutions, look at partners that can deliver not only the expertise that comes with managing. We have 170 different markets that we work within, but then allow yourself to focus your attentions on the customer, allow yourself to focus on making sure that every stay is a remarkable one, and let people in the back office get on with their jobs.
Good point. So all are talking about people as an important factor, which is the high touch, which is the enabler function of tech and not the goal itself. I want to thank you for coming to this high touch session. During the pandemic, we have tried to have meetings like this from the Independent Hotel Show and meet online, but the energy we get from being in this room together is unbeatable. So I'm really happy that high touch is taking over again in this realm. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much to our panel, Valentin, Ilse, and Robert. Please give him a big hand of applause.